Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Working Trader, where we look at the Euro USD and GBP USD and come up with trade ideas for the day, if there are any. So let's jump right into it. Looking at Forex Factory, today we have unemployment claims. Yesterday we had FOMC and CPI. And let's take a look at how that had an impact on the markets yesterday. So looking at the daily for the Euro USD, so since we mitigated this the supply, price has been slowly dropping. Okay, so price has been slowly dropping, going down. So I was saying that price could be just be coming down, either to mitigate this area as well, before we get a reaction, and then possibly we continue bullish. Another scenario is that we still have not mitigated discount of this internal range as well as of the swing range. Okay, so because of that, it is likely that price could also come in deeper, okay, mitigate the extreme of this POI, of this demand, okay, before we get a reaction, right? Or it could willingly go deeper to mitigate the extreme of this whole swing leg. Okay, that is also another possibility. Okay, so as it stands right now, price is slowly, okay, trickling down. Okay, and then yesterday we had a strong bearish candle. Okay, after all these days of pretty much consolidative price action, and then we've had a strong bearish push, and looks like we could continue bearish, okay, to mitigate deeper into this demand zone on the daily. So yes, whilst we understand that the swing and the internal, they are bullish, okay, that they're both bullish, but right now the phase in which price is in is a pullback phase. Okay, so it is likely that price has made a lower low and will continue to make has made a lower high, and will likely continue to make a lower low. Okay, possibly sweep these this low, okay, to mitigate this extreme, okay, have a reaction, and then maybe possibly continue depending, okay, before it then finally switches bullish. So looking at the pound, is still same scenario. We had a break of structure, internal and swing. So in general, price is bullish, but the current phase is bearish. Okay, so on the pound is clear because we've made a lower low, and price could likely continue to drop until it mitigates any of these demand areas that are at EQ. All right, and this one is at discount. Okay, and then of course we do have all these areas which are unmitigated at the extreme. Okay, so price could react from any of those areas. Okay, so in the meantime, the way it's looking is we are bearish, so we're going to continue possibly to mitigate this POI. Okay, maybe have a reaction. We don't know whether that reaction will be a reaction to continue bullish, or it will just be a reaction, right? And then price will continue dropping, right? Because all of these has been mitigated. Okay, so we have our demand chain right there. So all of these areas have been mitigated, and then the only unmitigated one is the topmost, which price is approaching, which is this one. So if this fails, then it's likely price would then just continue, maybe take out all of this liquidity, all right, maybe come in and mitigate this area before we start looking for longs. Okay, but obviously short term intraday, there are many trades available, going down. So let's look at the 4-hour. So focusing on the Euro USD. So on the 4-hour, this is what we have. Price had a drop. Okay, so our swing is still bullish. All right, our internal is still bullish. This is our internal range. Right, sub-internal, we are definitely bearish, and then we did shift bullish. Okay, so this is the range we are in, sub-internal. Okay, sub-internal, we are bullish. So it becomes tricky now because you have all these different ranges and then you don't know which one to focus on. Okay, so for the most part, you'd want to simply focus on the most current and most recent price action. Okay, on the most current and most recent price action. So yes, overall we are bullish. Okay, swing and internal are bullish, but the most recent and current price action is showing that we are bearish. Okay, we are bearish. So we had that, we had relative equal lows, we had the strong push down, had a pull up, and then pretty much we've been just going down like that. Okay, so the most current price action is showing that we are bearish. Now we could come down, sweep these areas, mitigate this area, have a reaction. Okay, have a reaction, and you get your 2-hour trade in and out. Okay, so on the 4-hour, this is what we have. So let's see on 1 hour. On the 1 hour, this is our internal break of structure. This is bullish, and then sub-internal, we are definitely making these bearish ranges. Okay, we are making these bearish ranges. So what do we expect now? Okay, so sub-internal. Okay, sub-internal, we are bearish. Right, so we broke sub-internal, we broke sub-internal, we broke sub-internal, and after every break of structure we expect a pullback. So this is what we're seeing now. Okay, so we had a strong push down. Okay, this would be our sub-internal range. Okay, on the 1 hour, we broke structure to the downside. Okay, right there, and after every break we then expect some kind of pullback back into the range. So we could expect to see price to continue bullish. Okay, for intraday trades. We could expect to see price continue bullish towards these areas. Okay, towards any of these areas. Okay, and whilst the internal or sub-internal structure is currently bearish, this is what we have so far. Okay, this is the range. So this would be the extreme. That would be the extreme of that range. That would be the extreme of that range. And then we had a sweep right up there. Okay, and then we have an imbalance. Okay, so within this range, okay, if I'm just to use my fib premium discount, all right, for this range, this is at the equilibrium. Okay, so it is possible that price will continue bullish, mitigate this area, and then have some kind of reaction. And then if it's to continue bearish, then we'll continue to take this out If not, then we'll have a reaction or possibly violate this demand, this supply, and then we can start looking maybe at the extreme. Okay, we might get a reaction. If that fails, then it means price is now possibly willing to continue bullish. Okay, so this would be the outlook. Okay, so currently we may be looking for short-term longs on our time frames to get to this supply, and then maybe have a reaction from there, and then from there we'll see whether price gets reacts or not. If it breaches, then that could be an indication that maybe the supply zones are starting to fail, demand is now starting to gain control, but we'll only be sure once we violate this whole structure. Okay, this whole range that we're in, this bearish range. Okay, so let me see if I can quickly get rid of that. And I may have to. Okay, no. Okay, so that would be my expectation for the day. Okay, for the day, that's what I'll be looking at. Okay, so let's look at the pound. All right, let's look at the pound. This is what we have. Okay, so I've already explained this on the daily. So let's look at the 4 hour. So looking at the 4 hour, this is what we have. This is our internal strong. This is our internal weak, which has now been broken. So after break of structure, we do expect a pullback. Does it mean that it will happen immediately? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So price could continue, okay, to go down, maybe to mitigate this demand, okay, down here, before we have a reaction, and then maybe a strong reaction to come back into the range. And then do we have any other areas down at the bottom? Not necessarily. So this would be the only area that price has not tested, okay, which price could react from, okay. However, we do have resting relatively equal lows right there at the bottom, so price could continue, target those, sweep that area, okay, and then start to move up after it has eliminated this demand, okay. So this is what we have on the 4 hour, okay. So this is now a break of internal structure, so 4 hour IBOS, and then once we have that break, this is now our new swing range, right. That's now our new range. Then let me just move that to the side, and this is what we have. So within this range, do I have any clear zones? Yeah, we could have this one, decisional, and all of this is tight price action. This has already been mitigated, okay. So it is likely that when price starts to push up, it could just blow up and take all of this out, okay. So in the meantime, we can still look for price maybe to continue bearish, maybe to mitigate this area, okay, this demand at the bottom right here, okay. So let's see on 1 hour. So on 1 hour, this is what we have. We had our break, a pullback, we didn't mitigate the extreme, came close to it, and then we had a sharp sell-off, okay. We had a sharp sell-off And now we've kind of broken. All right, so let's say we'll call this our internal. Okay, so that gives us a very tight range. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so short term, all right, intraday, this is what we have. So price could still come and mitigate this area. Okay, but this is what we have. So this is outside of the range, and then within the range, this is what we have. So I'm just gonna mark out these areas like this. Okay, so we've had a break of structure. We've actually eliminated, yes, we've eliminated these areas of demand. Okay, so we could have a reaction, right, all the way coming up to here to then continue short, because the current order flow is heavily bearish. Okay, we're still heavily bearish. Okay, so it is possible we could mitigate and then come back down, mitigate this demand which is in deep discount, and then finally start pushing up, because we would have also mitigated the daily demand as well. So we might have a stronger reaction from that point onwards. Okay, so as it stands on the pound, we may be looking for pullback. Okay, we don't know whether it will be all the way to this POI, okay, or it will just be a slight pullback, you know, maybe sweep all of these areas up here and then continue bearish, okay, to mitigate this area, and then we may have it then a better pullback, or at least, you know, price pushing up afterwards. Okay, so those are my ideas for the day. That's what I'll be looking at intraday. You know, from what the market is looking like, and then obviously trading decisions may change according to what the market is doing at the time when I'll be looking for trade setups. Okay, but that's what I'm looking at for today. So please, if you find value in this material, please do subscribe, please leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know what you think. And yeah, I'm glad some of you are sharing their ideas as well, taking trades from the analysis that I'm making, and that's good to know, and taking profit. Okay, adding it to their own personal trading strategy. So that's good to know, and I'll keep on doing this and helping you as much as I can. All right, other than that, have a great day, and Working Trader out.